George Washington almost became America's king. Here's why. Imagine a world where George Washington, the hero of the American Revolution, the man who led a ragtag army to victory against the world's greatest empire, didn't become the first president of the United States. Imagine instead that he became king. It sounds impossible, unthinkable even. Yet, in the summer of 1783, just after the Revolutionary War, some influential men seriously considered offering Washington the crown. How close did America come to abandoning its fledgling democracy for a monarchy? And how did one man's moral compass change the course of history? This is the story of the night America almost had a king. 1. The Fragile Republic. The Revolutionary War had ended, but victory was only the beginning of America's struggles. The 13 colonies had defeated Britain, but they were still a loose confederation under the Articles of Confederation. A government so weak that Congress could barely enforce its own decisions. Soldiers were unpaid. Farmers struggled. States quarreled over borders. And the fear of anarchy was everywhere. In this chaos, George Washington stood as a unifying figure. He was revered across the young nation, seen as incorruptible, honest, and heroic. To many, he wasn't just a military commander. He was the only man capable of holding the country together. And that reverence planted a dangerous idea. 2. The proposal. The idea first appeared in whispers among officers at Newburgh, New York, in March 1783. The war was over, but Congress was unable or unwilling to pay the Continental Army. Officers, frustrated and hungry, felt betrayed. Some began to fantasize about solutions, a new, stronger government. One of those ideas, almost unthinkably, involved offering Washington the title of king. Historians refer to this as the Newburgh Conspiracy. Officers circulated letters and petitions hoping Washington would lead a more centralized government, essentially a monarchy that could enforce debts, pay soldiers, and stabilize the nation. Washington read the letters carefully. He knew the officers were desperate, their loyalty to him absolute. He also understood the risk. Accepting a crown would betray everything he had fought for. 3. Washington's response. The moment of truth came in March 1783, at a meeting in Newburgh. Washington addressed the officers in a calm, deliberate voice. He appealed to their honor, reminding them of the ideals of the Revolution. In a famous gesture, he put on glasses, the first time many officers had ever seen him wear them, and spoke from the heart. I well know that among you are men who can appreciate a noble and just cause, but I cannot, I dare not, accept a crown, or any title inconsistent with the principles for which we have fought. The officers were stunned. Some wept. Some lowered their heads. The moment diffused a crisis that could have changed the course of history. Washington refused the crown, not because it was dangerous, but because it was morally wrong. 4. Historians debate. Some historians argue that the offer of a crown was more rumor than reality. There was never a formal proposal. Others insist that Washington was genuinely tempted, at least briefly, by the power and stability a monarchy could provide. Primary sources, letters, diary entries, and congressional correspondence, show that Washington consistently prioritized principle over personal gain. He feared that accepting a crown would destroy the fragile trust of the people and plunge the nation back into tyranny. It's a fascinating what if. Imagine Washington as King George I of America. No constitution, no Bill of Rights, a hereditary monarchy, all because the Continental Congress failed to pay soldiers and keep the nation stable. 5. Outcome and legacy. The Newburgh conspiracy quietly fizzled. Washington's moral authority ensured loyalty, but the episode had long-term effects. He resigned his commission in December 1783, returning to Mount Vernon, proving to the world that he was not a man who sought power for himself. His voluntary relinquishment of authority became a model for the presidency, an office designed not for kings, but for citizens serving their country. The lesson of the night America almost had a king is profound. Leadership is not just about power, but about restraint, ethics, and foresight. One man's choice preserved the fledgling republic. 6. Modern fascination. Today, the story is largely forgotten, a footnote in history books, yet it captivates the imagination. A hero offered absolute power and choosing democracy instead. It raises questions that resonate even now. How much power is too much? How do leaders resist temptation? What would America look like if one man had chosen differently? Visualize it: a crown on Washington's head, the colonies bound not by a constitution, but by decree. Our history would be unrecognizable. Instead, we remember the image of Washington removing his glasses, appealing to conscience over ambition, and shaping the nation in a way no monarch ever could. 7. Closing history often surprises us. The events we think of as inevitable, the Constitution, the presidency, the American experiment, were not guaranteed. They were shaped by moments of courage, morality, and human choice. So next time you hear the phrase, "the father of our country," remember, George Washington could have been a king. Instead, he chose something far harder, something far more American.